Hi, I'm Becky Lyons. Welcome to Jesus Speaks in the Book of Mormon and in Dreams. So today is Holy Week, Day 4. Today, there's not a lot written in the scriptures about what actually happened this Holy Week on Wednesday. And so I was just asking Jesus, I said, Jesus, what do you want me to talk about? What happened today on Wednesday? And he led me to the CWIC show with Greg Madsen. It's CWIC, it's CWIC. So watch his channel. His podcasts are amazing. And this one is, the title of it is Easter Week Primer, the Royal Procession and the Endowment. And so this is part 2 to our Holy Week Wednesday. So I'm going to share this video with you and watch Greg Madsen on the CWIC show channel. It's amazing. So if you look at Easter week, let me make sure that I need to do something first that I forgot. Okay, now we'll start. So if you look at Easter week or at this Holy Week, through these two filters and through these two lenses, these two interpreters, if you're going to see these events, they all fit a narrative that is different than you may have seen before. And I need to turn this down. I've got it too fast. I meant to turn it back to 0 or to 1. I've got the playback speed here too fast. So we're going to go back to the normal and now be able to read it without going so fast. So you may have seen before, this Easter week is the first royal procession. You know, when Jesus Christ comes in on Palm Sunday, the crowning of the King. So when Jesus Christ came in on the Palm Sunday, he came in on a donkey, and that was a sign of royalty coming in. And then all the people waved the palm fronds at Jesus, and they said, "Blessed be the name of the Most High God," and they praised him as their king, welcomed him in as his king. So it was like a coronation ceremony where like a king is crowned. They were like getting him, they were welcoming him in as their king. And in the second coming, we also will be wearing white, and we will also welcome Jesus Christ in as our king, and we will also wave palm fronds. So that's what he's talking about when Palm Sunday is the welcoming in of the king and that he's crowned at the temple. That's what Greg is talking about right here. So just to kind of get you, so Easter week is first a royal procession for the king on Palm Sunday. It's the royal procession of a king coming in to be crowned and a coronation ceremony in the temple. That's what's going on Palm Sunday. And everything that we get throughout the entire week, even beyond that week, has to do with this idea of the king being crowned as king, ultimately the King of Kings, the Davidic king, Jesus Christ, our Savior. So he does get crowned later on, and then we do have the term the King of the Jews that is put above his cross. This whole week is all about a coronation ceremony. It's all about Jesus Christ being the king, and it's based on ancient temple ritual that was done in some civilizations. Every year there would be a coronation ceremony, even if it was the same king, a drama, a ritual that would happen, and it happened with the Jews, the Israelites, usually during the Feast of the Tabernacles. So if we look at Jesus Christ coming up from Jericho, where he's already got a large multitude of people following him, you have to ask why that is, whether they're going to ascend down from Jericho up through what is Bethany first, and when they come over into Jerusalem from the east, he comes in from the east gate of the city riding on a donkey, just like Solomon did on his coronation as king, coming in to go where not to the palace, but to the temple. That's where the king would go, to the temple, and this temple drama. And for the coronation ritual of the king, he's going to go there, and he's going to be crowned king. So he's going to be coronated as a king. Now, he doesn't get coronated there because he is going to be coronated, so to speak, when he is resurrected. After the 3 days, he's resurrected, right? That's his real coronation as king. In the resurrection, he does get coronated as king in a mock way before he's crucified by the Romans. because they call him the King of the Jews, where he's going to the temple to be coronated. He's not ready to be the King of Kings yet, because he must be resurrected first. He must go through everything this Holy Week first. So he comes into the temple, and instead of being coronated, he cleans the temple out. This is also ritual. The temple, this Day of Atonement, this is what the high priest would do on the Day of Atonement, the day of Yom Kippur. On this Day of Atonement, he's going to take the blood of the bullock, he's going to take the blood of the goat, and he's going to sprinkle it around the altar and around the Ark of the Covenant, around the Holy of Holies, and around the temple, even the people. He's going to cleanse everything in the temple, and he's going to cleanse the land. That, in a sense, to some degree, is what is happening with Jesus Christ. And if you read that closely, that text, I don't remember what the gospel speaks of the cleansing of the temple, because you're not going to find it in every gospel. But if you look closely, it's not the money changers that Jesus really has a problem with. No, not really. The issue is Jesus Christ is with the Sadducees, who are the chief priests of the temple, the high priests that run the temple. They're the ones making the money off the money changers, the high priests, the Sadducees. I mean, the other people are still making a small cut, but the Sadducees, the high priest of the temple, they are the ones that are really making a huge cut off of what they're selling at the temple. So that's who Jesus Christ really has a problem with. They're in charge. The Sadducees are in charge of the money changers, and probably getting a huge cut of everything that's being sold in the temple. It's an imitation of priesthood, so to speak. So that is not doing the will of the Father, and that has lost its way, and he's not doing the will of the Lord, that he's cleansing with the true priesthood, which is based eventually in Gethsemane on his blood and his sacrifice, on charity and on love. It's right. So you get the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur here, and the temple, and the ritual of the temple is the second filter, again, going through this entire Holy Week. Think of Jesus Christ as a king. This is all about a holy procession of the king, and about being crowned at the end of the week when he is resurrected. Secondly, you look at this as a temple experience. So if you really think about it, those are the one and the same thing: the temple experience, the endowment, the anointing, and the washing, etc. And the royal procession of the king, they are in many ways one and the same thing, right? So if you look at it as he's going through the temple, a temple experience of ascension, and the ordinances that he goes through, the events, some of the events that he goes through, that Jesus goes through in this Holy Week, they're all about the temple experience. So then, of course, the temple experience is a royal priesthood experience for kings and for queens. So in a sense, like I said, it's kind of like similar, but it's a different filter to look at Holy Week and to understand the events of Holy Week and what is really going on here. At least just one last point here that happens in the temple. It happened in the temple with ancient Israel. So when you have Pilate as an example, who is going to have both Jesus Christ and Barabbas put out to the people, which are really just the chief priests and those around them, it's not all the Jews. We mistakenly do this, and we think that the Jews are laying out the palms and the garment in front of him on the donkey as Jesus Christ is in his royal procession on Palm Sunday into Jerusalem. We think those are the same people that are just so fickle that a few days later they're crying for him to be crucified, but that's not true. I don't believe that. There are these separate groups. The followers are laying down the palms and the garments, and then the Sadducees and probably some of the Pharisees and some of the others, they're probably a much smaller group here. But they are the ones that are calling for Christ to be crucified, for Jesus to be crucified. But Pilate has two individuals, just like the temple, just like the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, where the high priest would have two different goats. One is going to be sacrificed, a pure goat that he will be sacrificed, representing Jesus, and the other goat will be laid and have the sins laid upon that goat and be banished out of the city. That also represents Jesus. So that's called the scapegoat. That's what happens here in this scene. Pilate thinks that Barabbas is the one that is going to be the sacrifice. It seems more likely because he finds no fault with Jesus Christ. He's also afraid of his wife's dream. But the Sadducees and the others around them, the chief priests and others around them, want Jesus Christ to be sacrificed and to let Barabbas go. So you have there again a Day of Atonement type of a course, a Day of Atonement, a type of event, because the rituals that you have in ancient Israel are looking forward to this week. Much of them are looking forward to this week. So of course, as these things play out during the week, they are simply manifestations of a reality, the reality of the rituals that looked forward to this Holy Week. And I think it's so important to consider that the authors are writing this in a ritualistic manner. It's something that the early Christians would have been familiar with the temple, and certainly with a royal procession and a coronation. If you put this Holy Week into that perspective and into that context, you're going to understand it much, much better, and it will become much more rich for you on this Holy Week. So go ahead and think about that today. And that is the end of this video. So once again, if you go to CWIC, it's called the Easter Week Primer, the Royal Procession, and the Endowment. So if you go to the Holy Week Wednesday, the Holy Week as your temple experience, and then if you go underneath that video, it's got more. You click onto the more, and then if you can click onto this video, it's in the more listing. So if you just go to his the CWIC show and you go to his videos, you won't find it there. You have to specifically go to the Holy Week Wednesday, click under the Holy Week Wednesday video under more, and then you'll find this video called Easter Week Primer, the Royal Procession Endowment. So once again, I asked Jesus Christ, what